See if my camera's actually working. Oh, it is. Good. It's just a little bit. I think it's good. I got adjusted good. Good. Well, good morning. Good morning, Sandro. Arnie's in the office this morning. Michael Newton's in the office this morning, and everybody else is online this morning. So but that's okay. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm hearing I get all kinds of phone calls over the weekend with stuff that's going on, and it's very interesting. I love it actually. I get phone calls now all over Alberta. I get calls from Edmonton, Central Alberta, Calgary, and all kinds of interesting questions and stuff that's happening. But the bottom line is that it doesn't matter where you are in Alberta, we have a pretty active market for sure. And product is moving, and it's moving rather quickly. So it's very interesting, some of these conversations. But that's why we're here today, because every one of us wants to, every one of us is trying to figure things out and constantly make little tweaks to our business so that we can make things a little bit better. And that's why we all come to these meetings every week, so we can tweak our business. Sometimes the smallest little thing that we learn can be have the biggest payoff. So I got to share my screen here. Make sure I got that right. And there we go. Can you see that, Alyssa? All right. Fantastic. All right. Just in case you didn't know, in Central Alberta, there's some stuff that's coming up. We've got the AGM for Cara coming up on March 20th, and their trade show. I've never been to that before myself, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty good gig. And these annual general meetings, they are good to attend, because I always say it's kind of like voting. You can't bitch about who got voted into government if you didn't vote, right? I always say you can bitch if you voted, but if you didn't vote, you can't bitch. And it's the same with these AGMs. Sometimes people complain about what the board is doing, but they don't go to the AGMs, they don't go to any meetings, but they still like to bitch. And I say, well, you don't have an entitlement to bitch unless you go to these things. So you should go. Edmonton's got the Home and Garden Show coming up on April 25th. And for those of you that are in Edmonton, I know this has been successful in Calgary too for these garden shows. Is you can invite clients and you can get tickets that you can send. And the way I know they've done this in Calgary, and I think they're doing the same in Edmonton, is if your clients don't use the tickets, you don't have to pay for them, but you can actually set it up so that you can send them tickets, and then you can cover it if you want to. Sometimes it's good to send your best clients to those events, and then even meet up with them when you're there. So anyway, so those are a couple of things that are coming up just to make you aware of it. And I've been looking at these articles. I always, when I'm preparing for these meetings, I always like to keep track of what kind of articles people are reading out there. And this one caught my eye. Not that there's anything earth-shattering here. We all know that we have an interesting market in Alberta, but this is what people are reading outside of Alberta as well. Alberta's housing dilemma: the influx of out-of-province buyers sparks market concerns. Over 100,000 people migrated in 4 years, and at least as many more expected by 2027. At least expected that much, which I think it may even be more. But anyway, Stats Canada reported from July 1st, 22 to July 1st, 23, Alberta's population grew by 4%. With over 55,000 more people moving in than moving out. So in 4 years, especially the Calgary Housing and Affordability Task Force believes that the number surpassed 100,000, with another 110,000 coming in the next few years. So the negative consequences of such a campaign are being realized as those moving into Alberta are finding their dollar goes further. And of course, this is also seeping into the rental market. And the thing that the thing that I always look at is what keeps the market really strong is if the rents are still about the same cost of owning, people want to own, right? And we are seeing this. I mean, depending on where you are in Alberta, obviously the rents are lower in Edmonton and central Alberta than they are in Calgary, but still, even I was talking to one of our agents in our Red Deer office about the rents in Innisfil, and even Innisfil rents have really gone up, even in a town like Innisfil. It's quite incredible. But that's the relationship people look at, and it's really a funny thing because first-time buyers, that is one of the motivating factors for them. You probably see it too, Sandro, in mortgage approval. Say, well, I'm paying $3,500 a month in rent. What are my mortgage payments going to be? If it comes out to around the same, they're going, yeah. I mean, why am I renting? And that's a real motivating factor to get people into the market. And the rents are rising, and it is putting pressure. It's kind of sad because there are a percentage of people that they don't qualify for a mortgage, and they're stuck in that rental trap. And some of them can't even get out because the rents are going up and they can't save money to even get their down payment. So it is definitely an ongoing dilemma that, and there's no easy solution to this. And, I know the government is trying to do something about it. I know I was watching an article or a blurb on TV about what Trudeau's trying to do with government housing and trying to, or affordable housing rather, on how they're trying to address this. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in how to create affordable housing, but I do know that if you're a developer and you're a builder, in order for you to build something, you have to be able to sell it for a profit in order for you to be successful. And to build something and sell it for a profit, usually to me means you have to sell it for market value. Kind of makes logical sense to me, but so I don't know how they're figuring this out to build these places that have affordable housing, but I don't know. And the demand doesn't seem to be catching up to the supply anyway. So, but these articles, by the way, when you read them, this is part of this is to also educate your buyers. It's sad but true. You have to educate your buyers on really coming in aggressive and stepping up to the plate, and it's not easy. I mean, even right now, my daughter Alyssa has been trying to buy a condo. We wrote an offer on a 1-bedroom condo and came in 30,000 over the asking price and didn't get it. On a 1-bedroom condo. Like this is some crazy stuff, and that would be considered stepping up to the plate. So, yeah, and it's I feel for the buyers because it's not easy to have to come in, over asking and even know as to how far over asking you should go. I mean, that's a difficult one to know. But the bottom line is, regardless of where you are, I mean, some markets are a little bit slower moving than others. Definitely, Edmonton and Central Alberta are a little bit more slower moving than Calgary is when it comes to that. But even the phone calls I'm getting from Edmonton is they're seeing a lot of multiple offers now in Edmonton too. Like it's showing up, especially in obviously the lower priced real estate. That's where the highest demand is. So whenever you're getting into that starter home price range, that's really the most difficult place to be. And in this article also thought it was interesting. More agents, more competition, including from outside of Alberta. The influx of residents has increased the number of licensed agents in the province. It is amazing. Like I look at the report of all the realtors that are coming into the business. It's just unbelievable. I've just never seen so many agents that are coming into the real estate business that want to get into this business, and they see dollar signs and they have no idea what they're getting into. It's you can see why it's attractive. We all know it's a wonderful business to be in. It's attractive, but it is definitely adding a little extra pressure to the whole thing, because when you look at if you look at simply the amount of properties sold in relation to how many real estate agents there are, the numbers don't even add up. So yeah, especially with the added pressure, it's like it's bad enough that we have such low inventory, and I think we have even more realtors. But I will tell you, this is why it's so important that all of us, knowing that the competition is so fierce, there's such a massive choice of agents to choose from. We have to continually do something a little bit better and different than the competition. You really have to rise above the noise, rise above the crowd in your business to showcase that you're just a little bit better than the competition. That's why we come to these meetings every week. Anyway, on that note, just some stats, not that anybody doesn't already know this, but it's just also it's good to look at these numbers. There's an awareness. It's good to look at these charts. These are something you can use in your social media. I pulled these right off of the Alberta Real Estate Association, so everybody has access to this. So this is what's happening in Red Deer, and I think it's interesting that the $300,000 to $400,000 range, that's your in 2024. So the darker green is 2024 compared to 2023, and this is looking at the stats in February, and it's really interesting to see that even 400 to 500 has grown so much more this year than last year, for the Red Deer area, and when I shoot it, like for example, when I shoot a video like this that I would send out to my database, and I look at a chart like this, what everybody can read a chart, but what people really want is how does that really apply to me? And secondly, when people look at charts, the big question they always ask themselves is where is the market going? What do you think it looks like for the coming months and the coming year in advance? Well, obviously, if things continue, you can see that the biggest part of the market right there in that area is $300,000 to $400,000. But when you see that the 400 to 500 has increased that much, that means that the way things are going, if you buy anything in the $300,000 to $400,000 right now in Red Deer, it's probably going to be in the $400,000 to $500,000 in not too distant future. And you'll see that this $500,000 to $600,000 range will just keep growing too. It's simple, but it's funny when you explain it this way in a chart on a video, it sinks in a little bit further. Edmonton, look at the biggest growth here for Edmonton, $400,000 to $500,000 range, and then they've got that $500,000 to $600,000 range that's rising. So I love looking at these charts, how Red Deer right now has got the least expensive from that perspective. Then you go to Edmonton, and then of course the next step is that you go to Calgary, and then these numbers are insane. Our biggest growth has been 700 to 999, and that's a really active market now in Calgary, right? That 700 to we'll say $700,000 $850,000 range. That's a really active market for houses.
And it wasn't in September, October, it wasn't that active.
Yeah, that price range wasn't as active, but it sure is now. I mean, crazy enough, we're seeing a lot of competing offers even in the house for 750, 775. A lot of times there's 5 offers on those houses. And
below 200,000 is dropping so significantly.
There's nothing.
Yeah, this under 200 is becoming a thing of the dinosaur.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, I mean, look at in Edmonton.
Trailer park.
What's that, Wes?
I said you need a trailer park.
Yeah, you need a trailer park, exactly. But look at Edmonton. There's still some pretty good choice, under 200,000 in Edmonton, and definitely Red Deer. There's a good choice there. But yeah, it's becoming a thing of the past in Calgary. So, but this is why. By the way, it's being that we have an office now in Red Deer and Edmonton. This is why it's collaboratively working together with our agents. If you got some referral business, offer a referral, pay a referral. There's some collaborativeness here, because I'm going to tell you right now, some of these people that are coming into Calgary that want to buy an investment property, you might think, well, I don't want to just send them up to, central Alberta or Edmonton. I'd like to get them into a property, but the reality is some of these people, good luck. You may be better off just saying, you know what, I'll take a referral fee. and send them up to Edmonton because I just can't get them what they want here. Like, it's impossible. You may have to really consider that rather than try to fight your way through it, because investors especially, they're a little different than somebody that's buying a property just for themselves. If I'm buying it for myself, maybe I'm willing to overpay considerably to get in. I was just talking to Arnie about that, right? Some people are just overpaying, but they want it for themselves and they're gonna live there for whatever. Investors, they don't tend to look at things like that, right? Investors are looking to try to get a good deal. Rarely are you gonna get an investor when there's 5 offers on a property. Rarely is the investor gonna be the best offer, right? And that's what I'm saying. You might avoid the frustration. We'd be better off to call one of our agents in central Alberta or in Edmonton and just say, look, I think you can do a little bit better on getting what you want in another market, which I think is really true, because these markets for investors right now, I think, are better than Calgary. Sad to say, but it's true. Okay, we have a success story for our 1 hour open house, because Michael Newton did one, and I thought maybe he could come up and tell us how it went for him, because he pulled this off, and it's a good story.
Yeah, so I did an open house. It was 1 hour and it was really good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's my first time trying the open house, that Rob has been, well, Craig Proctor has been training us on, and Rob has been the pioneer pushing it in the brokerage. And I was hesitant. Rob asked me, "Are you going to do the 1 hour open house?" I'm like, I don't know. Not sure.
You said you were going to be doing it for 2 hours.
Yeah, I said I was going to do a 2 hour. Anyways, I did the 1 hour. We marketed it. We listed it on the Friday morning, and blocked off all showings until after the open house on Saturday. And then we delivered flyers to the neighbors, right? I went with my daughter and we did some door hangers. And there were anywhere between 15 to 18 groups that came to the open house in that 1 hour. And the people that were coming in were saying, "You only give us 1 hour. Like, this is why we're here. Like, we didn't want to miss out on this," right? So the fact that it's 1 hour alone is psychologically advantageous for all of us, because that's what got a lot of these people into the house. But there were, probably about 40 to 45 people in total. No, 40 to 45 people in total in the house. I would say about 18 groups. There were 2 agents that came to the open house with their folks. And then we generated an offer. So there was a family that came into the open house, and then they booked a showing afterwards with their agent, and they sent an offer to the properties. Yeah. It's a success story right there. It works. So
Did you possibly even pick up any leads for non-represented buyers or sellers?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of contact information exchanged, and it was so. The one thing about having so many people in the open house is that there's a lot of energy, right? And so that keeps everybody positive and talking about the house and everything else. And it's easy to relate to people when everybody's in that upbeat, positive energy state.
Right.
So I had great conversations with people, exchanged information, and there's a couple of people that are looking to sell their house and all of that. And we'll keep those conversations going. There's nothing that's come out of it just yet, but the fact that we got their contact information is very good. So yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
That, like I said, the open house was really good.
Michael, question.
Oh, yeah.
Question.
Who's there?
Question, Michael, did you guys do the QR code like Rob does or no?
No, I did not. No.
Did you have a registration book when they walked in?
No, I did not.
So, okay.
Now you can
So,
Okay.
it's time for you to say goodbye.
everything was going so well. Till somebody
So, sorry, I had to ask the question.
I mean, did I have a registration book? Yeah, technically I did.
How many people did they flyer in the neighborhood?
What was that
Rob?
about the flyers?
What, yeah, how many flyers did they send out? Did
How
they
many
go?
did- He sent out about 50 flyers, so, you know, I mean, I guess,
and then social media.
yeah, obviously the social media advertising, realtor.ca. I mean, maybe next time the forced registration you'll find works, because I personally found it works best if you have two people at the open house and one person is at the door and just getting everybody to sign in when they come in. And we've had no problem with that. People are doing it. And then you just have everyone's contact information. But Michael was also fortunate enough though to get people's information anyway, but it can be a little more challenging. You see, if you don't get their information when they come to the door, it can be a little more challenging if you get all these people in the house, right? Because then you're having conversations and it's hard to have conversations, that lead to them giving you their information voluntarily because there's only so much time and that 1 hour goes by awfully quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's easy when you're this good looking.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have for Michael is, how did his, sorry, Michael, I think you can answer this one easily. So what was your seller's takeaway on this approach?
Yeah, so the question, Michael, is what was your seller's takeaway on this approach? Did they give you any feedback? They sold the house too cheap, right?
The message that I got from the seller was, from the wife was, thank you for being so impeccable.
Right.
In your service.
So the message he got was, thank you for being so impeccable in your service. I can tell you, there's no doubt about it. When you got that many people that come to an open house, and especially this was a $2 million property as well. Like that's a lot of people for a $2 million property.
Yeah.
The neighbors take notice, your seller takes notice. I mean, you get a picture of it on social media, show all these people coming into the house, like that really bodes well, even when you go to the next listing appointment and you say, hey, this is what we did on this last house. It was very successful. We could do the same thing for your home and probably have the same success. I mean, like every single aspect of this is great. And the other thing that I love is Michael calls me at about 2:45 to tell me how successful it was. And I said, he says, I'm on my way to the gym. And I said, yeah, because it was only 1 hour. You have enough time to go and do more things today rather than sitting at that open house from 1 to 4 like you normally would have.
Well, actually, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And then I went to Costco too.
I went to Costco as well, right?
I think it's important.
And since you sold the house, you could afford to go to Costco. All right, no, that's good. Thanks for that. It was a good story, and I'm just great success with it, and especially in the market that we're in. No matter where you are in Alberta, I think these 1 hour open houses can work. Unless maybe you're in a rural property, that might be a little bit more challenging. If you got a property, way off the beaten path, that might be a little more challenging to get people to a 1 hour open house. But anything I think that's in a centralized location, this can work extremely well, and I would encourage all of you to do it. And don't forget, in fact, Morgan's going to talk about using the portal website because we have a lot of stuff on there, including all of the everything you need to know about these 1 hour open houses. So on that note, I'm going to actually give Morgan control here because she's going to walk us through some of these things on our portal. If you know everything about the portal, this may be a little redundant, but I think because there's so much on there, everybody needs to be more comfortable with it. So there you go, Morgan.
Okay. You guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have not signed in to the portal, I'm just going to show you that when it says login, you're gonna, for the first time ever, make sure that you sign up. And then I actually approve your login. So you can let me know that you did that. I get a notification. I try to stay on it as fast as I can, but that's your first step to getting in there. Most of us should be in there, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. But if you have any questions about getting in for the first time, let me or Alyssa know and we can help you out. And Mystique, actually, Mystique knows how to do that as well. So in the dashboard on our main page, I always post the latest Monday morning meeting to this part here. It's basically like the blog for us. And so if you come up to resources and videos and training, you'll also find all of our training that I've posted here. So you can see that I put the masterclass recording. I don't know why it's looking out. And then if you come back down through here, there's also next one training. Oh, it's bugging out. And then the 1 hour open house. Okay, let me refresh. There's always a disclaimer that this is handmade by me. So if anything happens, let me know. But the 1 hour open house procedure, this is just the checklist that we use to go through that 1 hour open house. So the more you do on the list, the better we've had success. So even just the small QR code, I mean, you can do it without it, but it does help a lot. So it's all on here. And if you have any questions about it, at the bottom, there's also some examples of what we send out and the designs that we have for it. So that's all in there. And like I said, that's under resources and videos and training, and an easy way to grab everything. The other huge one that we all need to know about is the downloads and the file share. So on the dashboard, I just want to show you, I've made it so there's a few places to get it just to make it easy. But downloads right here, it'll also take you to this downloads and file share. There's the buyer's guides first and up front, but if you go all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see this file share section. This is basically like a Google Drive that all of you guys can have access to. So we've had a lot of questions on where I put Susanita's presentation. It's under buyer seller presentations, and you open up that folder and it's going to have her examples right here. So if you hover over it, it'll give you the full file name as well. But if you just click on it, it'll open it up and you can download it from there. So when I upload anything to, oh, here's Susanita's, anything to the portal, especially when it comes to a document, that's uploaded to the file share, the downloads page. That's this page. So hopefully that clears up a lot of those questions that we had about where I put things for download. There's also all the logos and everything here in the files and folders. So I've got logos, and like I said, any other documents that we talk about on the Monday morning meeting, I put them here so they're just super easy to grab. So under other, we've got a couple other forms that don't really have a place in next one, and everyone needs access to them. So the file share is definitely a huge, huge tool on there. The last thing I was going to show you guys was, I think that was it actually.
The deposit, just a reminder on the deposits again.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the notice of deposit, you can actually take this URL and send it to anybody that's going to fill out this form. So you can fill it out, bookmark this page. It's perfect because you can just fill this out right now. I've added to this form anybody that's doing e-transfers. It's put in place now that the e-transfer information will be forwarded and sent to anybody who fills out any email that gets entered on this page gets the information at the end of it. So everyone will get it. And then Janine and Rob get the notification of that, the form being filled out, so that when money is transferred in, that they're notified of who's for, what transaction it's for, all that.
Yes, especially because we are seeing more and more e-transfers, especially Central Alberta and Edmonton are doing a lot more e-transfers than Calgary is, but it's becoming more the norm. I get it. It's easier for the buyers to send that in. It's more simple. But this way, at least now when it comes in, because I do all the e-transfers, but I obviously need to know, with the deal that it's attached to. This is why we have this stuff is being filled out. Just, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. We as a brokerage are not allowed to put any money in trust unless we know where the money is coming from. It's very clear. That's a directive from RECA. It's a directive from area. We have to know which deal it is. We just don't put any money in trust. I used to think, well, hey, if you're giving me money, I'll take it. I don't care. I don't care whose money it is. But no, when it comes to trust funds, they can't be. My own personal bank account is different. I can take it into my own personal account, right? But for trust, it has to know what it is.
Mhm.
Do an example.
Just to show it when the email gets sent out. They get a lot of questions.
Okay, Janine is suggesting just do an example to walk everybody through it because she gets a lot of questions on how it all looks.
Okay, 1 second. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, but you have to log into the back office to be able to access.
You don't have to log into the back office to get to that page.
You can send the link or you can go into the portal and fill it out. So Morgan, just show
That
them.
one page is shareable. That's why it says send out next to it on the menu. And okay, here's the email that comes for e-transfer.
But I can't see how to send this out.
So it just says, we received your request. It'll tell them the buyer agent, the seller agent, the deposit amount, and then the information for e-transfer. So that's specifically the e-transfer email.
And by the way, I specifically just picked rental because we also take e-transfers in our property management division. And we just have always used rental. So that's the one I know. I know it's a simple password, but keep in mind, I'm depositing these pretty quickly when they come in. So it's not like they're sitting too long. So just use the password rental. It just makes my life a lot easier because there's nothing more frustrating for me than I get money. I know who it's from, that I go to deposit it, but I don't know the password, and then there'll be some kind of crazy question about what the password should be, but I wouldn't know the answer to it because I don't know the other realtor or anything else, so just use rental. Makes my life a lot easier.
And then this is the one that if you have wire transfer, if you select wire transfer on that form, then you'll get this email for the information for that.
Morgan, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When it comes to EFTs, some people have limits on how much they can send electronically. So if the deposit's 5,000, they might have to send those EFTs over 3 separate days. It's not as big a problem now because the banks are good at giving one-time limit increases, but I could see that being a problem because I noticed that it says very important, the exact amount of money noted on the purchase contract is the amount of money that arrives. Have you considered that at all, or are you aware of that?
Well, let me answer that question for you. Yes, we have considered it. We're aware of it. Yes, it can be done. Just bear in mind that all the entire deposit just has to be in to our trust account in the same fashion that's mentioned on the purchase contract. So if they're doing 3 e-transfers over 3 different days, but the total amount has to be in trust within the time period that's on the contract, unless the contract otherwise stipulates that. So you could do an addendum because there's not enough room on the purchase contract to put 3 transfers over 3 days, but you could do an addendum and just state that the buyer and seller agree to that. So, but the thing about it is, to make my life a little easier, it would be also good to fill this form out 3 times as well, because if it's coming in with the amount of e-transfers we're getting, it's sometimes hard for me to connect the dots. I mean, I can do it, but it just makes it easier for me to connect the dots if this is filled out for every e-transfer.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And feel free to keep in communication with Janine and conveyancing.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there not somewhere on there where we could say, this is one of three or one of two and two of two or two of three?
I
for the
could make,
deposits?
I can make a part on the form for notes if you'd like, that would send to Janine.
Yeah, that would be good to say this is one of three that are coming, and for me to know that, that would be, I think that would be fine. It's a good suggestion. And I can just, cause I can just save that and make a note of it, and I know when the money comes again tied to that particular name or deal, then I'll know who it's from and where it goes. So that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just add a note section so that you can put any comments that you have about the deposit or any information that you feel is necessary. I'll make those notes. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question. The realtor representing the buyer, when their buyer does an e-transfer, they want some kind of a receipt. When it's an e-transfer, it's not really a receipt, but what it is, it's a notification that we've received the money. So what I'm doing is like when it shows up, it'll show the buyer's name connected to the e-transfer. So I'll do the deposit, then I'll usually just forward back to you the fact that we've received the funds, and then you can send that to the buyer's agent. So it's a confirmation that we did receive the money, but it's not an actual receipt, that's all. But it is proving that we've received the money and we have it.
Right, so we do need it from them. We need like a screenshot.
Screenshot or something. If you're representing the buyer, you want that, and if you're representing the seller, you want to be able to give that to the buyer's agent.
Right, and yeah, but if we're receiving funds, we need a copy of the deposit that they're making as well.
Yeah, what we get is just the e-transfer itself. It shows, shows the name, it shows the amount of the money. That's all you get. Like I said, it's really just a notification that we've deposited for an e-transfer. So it's different than obviously a bank draft where you actually have a copy of the bank draft, or the wire transfer where it shows documentation that the wire transfer went in. So, but it's regardless of how it looks, it is proof that we received the money. I'm usually sending an email saying the money is in trust, so everything is done. And that's really all the buyer's agent needs, is confirmation that it has been received and we have it in our trust account.
Okay, if you do that from the buyers, or you're gonna get that from Bob? Like, who are you just gonna send you that is what she asked?
Yeah, no, he's talking about e-transfer, but I'm talking in general. We need a copy of the wire transfer. We need a copy that the transfer has to be completed by the buyer.
Yeah.
And so that if we're representing the seller, so we have a copy for the brokerage.
With
Yeah.
the e-transfer, I do usually print off something from the bank that'll show e-transfer received from, and I'll upload it into your guys' deals.
Okay. But with wire
You-
transfers,
Unless we're provided with a copy of the actual wire transfer from the buyer's agent,
yeah, so we need that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for a wire transfer, we want the buyer's agent to send us a copy.
Yeah, and a direct deposit as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the buyer's agents don't send us that, and we want that.
Yeah, so we
When they,
still need
because you do get your bank gives you a receipt for a wire transfer. So if you're representing the seller and the buyer's agent and the buyer do a wire transfer, we want that receipt for sure sent to us. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the world of moving money around is moving as quickly as technology, and we're trying to keep up, but I think we've got a pretty good system here now. But I welcome the feedback. I mean, sometimes the best suggestions come from some of our agents on how to make this better. I don't always have the answers to absolutely everything to make things better. Sometimes good suggestions are what we need. So, but I think the e-transfer thing is really moving towards what people prefer to do. So, it's our job just to try to make things easier and speed up the process. So that's what we're doing. Okay.
I fixed the form, so it now will ask you if you want to submit any notes to conveyancing.
Okay, perfect. Good. Well, I hope that's been helpful for everyone. And yes, thank you, Morgan. Morgan's done a great job on that portal. It's really, it's, to me, it's great because it's proprietary. These are, everything in that portal is just for our brokerage. It's not for everybody else. So this is why, you know, the stuff we put in there is to streamline our businesses better and make us more efficient, and we're working better with our clients. So that's why and it's nice that we can just make these changes at will anytime we need to. Okay, good. I got lots of time today, finally, for you're gonna like this section of our meeting today, because, you know, it's just a reminder constantly that we're in the people business, and you can never ever forget this. It's amazing to me every day as I've been in this business for all these years. I can't say enough about how much do I not only learn every day about the business itself, but the fact that I'm dealing with people every day, it also, it forces you in this business to also look at yourself. There's no way you can be in this business and not actually look at yourself. And really, I think that's what makes our business the most amazing business in the world, is because we get to help people, but we also get to help ourselves. Oh, yes, this box. I wanted to bring this up before I moved on to this part. So thank you for that, Janine. Here, if you guys can see this, we just got these boxes, and Morgan did a great job. Some of them have got the guaranteed sold, but you don't have to use that as well. These are stickers, so you can just use the top of it. You don't have to use the side of it if you don't want to. This is, again, right from the Craig Proctor playbook, okay? And which I thought was brilliant, because if you currently have a pre-listing package, and believe me, all of you should have a pre-listing package. Oh, Alyssa's got the one that doesn't have the guaranteed sold on it. Okay. Yeah.
Also, these stickers,
yeah,
they're not, these stickers are not like cheap stickers. These are like the nice DTF stickers that are what the professionals would put together for us anyway. But I've made it so that you can choose whether you want it to be a luxury box or a regular box, and if you want the guaranteed sold on it. So they are customizable. And I also know how to order your own stickers. If you'd like to go through that process with me, it's anyway, you can let me know. But the way that I've done it is so easily adaptable to your business.
Yeah. And what are the costs of these boxes again, Morgan? I think you said with the stickers are coming in around $8 or something in total.
Yeah, with the box and the sticker together, it's $8. Okay.
So now you're all thinking, so what's the box for? So I've been using pre-listing packages on kind of on and off my whole career. But the disappointing thing was, because I remember the very first time I got coaching on this is to have an amazing pre-listing package, and I dropped it off in an envelope. And I would, of course, you're supposed to do it like 2 days before you meet with the seller. And then you go there and you say, hey, did you have a chance to look at that, that information I dropped off early? And inevitably 90% of the people say, oh, no, I haven't had time. And I mean, I don't know how many times I'd go in there and the envelope wasn't even open, right? It's sitting on their counters, and you didn't even have time to open it, okay, let alone look at it, right? And so I've tried emailing it. I've nothing. I kind of got. That's why I said on and off. I've done it in my career because I got discouraged with it. The fact that I was putting forth this effort. But the Craig Proctor, they've tested this, and apparently, when you drop it off in a box like this, and you put your pre-listing package in the box, and you either you go a day or two before your appointment, and you hand it to your seller to say, hey, this is quite a bit of information about what we do for marketing of your property. I know when I'm coming over in a couple of days, there's only so much time we have to talk about everything, but this will give you a good solid understanding of some of the things that we do that will help you get the most money for your house when we sell it. And it's a statement, it's like opening up a Christmas gift. So I think you're going to find some pretty good success with this. you're only at a seller's house for about an hour and a half. So if you can get the seller to see very clearly in advance what makes you better and different than the competition, and keep in mind, most sellers do interview more than one agent. How many agents are dropping off a box like that in advance, right? I don't think many.
Sorry, Rob, to interrupt you, but can we see the box? Like,
Yeah, he
we
held
don't-
it up in his hands, Jackie.
Yeah, all I have is his screen.
Yeah, Rob, stop sharing your screen for a second so people will see you when you talk.
You can't see me right now?
No.
She just might not have the gallery view so she can see who's talking.
There. You
Okay,
see the box?
gotcha. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see it before. So this is what it looks like.
I'd also just like to say that the global luxury one is not, you can see that there's a bit of a reflection on the sticker there. It won't normally look like that. That was one of my previous versions of, yeah.
We had some test boxes we put
Yeah.
together, but we worked out all the kinks to make it look perfect now. So
What he's showing right now is how good they'll always look when you get them.
yeah.
So
She
we'll
did a
get-
great job though.
We'll get these, we have to order some more stickers, but we'll have these in Calgary, Red Deer, and Edmonton as quick as we possibly can. Just
We have enough for at least a couple boxes a location. So it's not that we don't have any. I'm just gonna get more.
right.
Yeah, there's still enough for each location will have at least 10 for available right now. And I just didn't go crazy with the order until we knew it worked. So now we know it works, so I'll go crazy with the order.
And here's the even best news. We are actually going to have, this is again right from the Craig Proctor playbook, but we're going to actually have a brokerage pre-listing package as well that'll go with this, that all of you can customize it the way you want. It'll be just a brokerage one, but it'll be very easy for any of you to take it and customize it the way you want. But it really showcases our brand of Coldwell Banker. It showcases some of the unique different marketing methods that we use to help sell your property. So believe me when I tell you, this will make a statement and it will really help sell you in advance. And you guys already know this. If you can go to a listing presentation and, from maybe what the seller has seen on your posts on social media, your website, what they know a lot about you already. And then you drop that off and they're so impressed with the effort. It comes in a nice box. It's Christmas. They open it up and they just see all this amazing marketing that we have. Really, ideally, they should be 80% sold on hiring you already before you even show up.
I'd like to mention too that some of the strategy to go along with this box is to include like a small packing kit where you include like a roll of tape and some labels and little things like that that can go along with it. So it's not secluded just to marketing material. You can actually use this as kind of a, like a little welcome gift or thank you for having me gift and put some packing materials in there as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Like a packing tape, right? Do you have packing tape with the
Yeah,
cold-
packing tape, labels. I'll come up. I've got a list of a couple things. So all the stuff that's going to go in it will be launched on the portal for you guys. That I'll have a little list of little things you can put in it, and then all the templates of what to print for your listing packet. So you'll have some more guidance there. But yeah.
Yeah. Or then you can be like this realtor I used to be in my office years ago. He used to say, if you hire me, your house is already sold. You put that in the pre-listing. If you hire me, it's already sold.
We can even put a coupon for the free moving truck.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about it. In this box, you can put stuff like that in there, the free moving truck. You can put, like in Morgan says, packing tape. Maybe there's another little kind of a gift. I'm sure some of you will come up with some pretty good ideas on stuff you can put in there. But the bottom line is that's just going to really set you apart. And that's what I said to you, going back looking at those stats. I mean, there's a lot of choice when it comes to who I should hire to sell my property. And these little touches is what separates you from the competition right now. So Done right? This should really get you some more listings. Okay, good. Now we can go back to what I was getting back into talking about people. And this is actually the perfect segue into it, because I've been studying DISC now for going on 25 years. I had the pleasure of meeting a gentleman who happened to be at our Coldwell Banker Gen Blue Vancouver last June. I hadn't seen Gerald Clerks literally since the summer of 2000, but it was the summer of 2000. I went to this meeting in some hotel to learn about personality profiles. And I first got introduced to it by Gerald Clerks, and it was so great to see him again after all those years. And I can tell you something, this had probably the biggest impact on my business than anything else. And that's why I have been continued to study this all these years. I have to revisit this about every 3 months because it's really easy to forget it if you don't. But when you get really good at DISC and you practice this in your mind as you meet people, everywhere you meet them, you look for certain indications as to what personality profile they are. And when you have a pretty good sense of what personality profile they are, you're able to present information to them and communicate in the way that they want to receive it. And that's the whole key to this. Most people aren't conscious about this, so they deliver things the way that you would want to receive it, not the way they would want to receive it. It's kind of like getting a back massage. Everybody has their, you know, if you go to a massage therapist, they always ask you, do you want one that's like really, really hard, or do you want one that's a little bit soft? Like everyone has their own preferred way of getting it. But you see, if you're not conscious of that, there's nothing worse than, like, if you were the person that didn't like one of those really deep penetrating massages, you didn't like that kind of hurt at a massage, well, obviously you wouldn't go back to that person. And it's the same idea when it comes to presenting information. Once you understand how people want to receive information, I'm going to tell you something, hands down, you're going to be 80% more effective in what you do. So, and if you're familiar with DISC, again, this is something you never stop studying, and believe me, this will not be the last time you'll be seeing this from me again. We will bring this up periodically because this is not a piece of knowledge that you just get and go, oh, okay, I understand that. This is something you actually have to use and practice. That's why you never ever stop talking about it. So it's a 4-quadrant behavioral model that examines individuals' behavior in their environment within a specific situation. Now, what it means is, this is why it's so important when it comes to real estate. When you're making big decisions in your life, it's amazing of how DISC shows up when you're making big decisions. How we analyze the situation is it's incredible. Big decisions in life, like, you know, anything you're spending a lot of money on. So this looks at the behavioral styles. This is not, it's important to know this, it's not a measure of intelligence. It's not an indicator of a person's values. It's not a measurement of skills and experience. And it's not a measurement of education and training. What it is simply an observable language. It's a universal language, a neutral language, and a silent language. It's that simple. It's an observation, meaning there's no right or wrong to this. One quadrant is not better than another quadrant. Except the one that Michael's in. I love it on this slide when it says observe and learn. That's the whole thing. We're not here to pass judgment, but I'm going to tell you something. This is why, yeah, someone's laughing at that. The funny thing is, though, a wise man once said to me a long time ago, expectations reduce your joy. And when he first told me that, I didn't quite understand it, but I realized we get frustrated when we set expectations that are kind of unrealistic. Like this morning, when I was coming in on Glenmore, I expected the traffic to be parting. I expected everyone to know I was coming so that I could get out of the way. You know, it was kind of irritating that this bottleneck happened now, you know, on Glenmore. And I got frustrated, and I was kind of chuckling with myself and saying, don't these people realize I have a meeting at 9:30?
Well, when I get home, I expect the house to be completed.
Yeah, that's right.
Be very well behaved, and all the homework done and everything.
But it's like, think of the expectations that we put on our clients that are kind of a subconscious expectations, what we think they should do, and then the expectations they think that we should do. But a lot of times is we're expecting something they're not able to give. People can't give you what they don't have. You have children? Michael knows this. What can I expect out of a 2-year-old, Michael?
Keep me up all night.
Keep you.
Especially when you spring forward in time, I give you 3 hours of sleep on one of the busiest days of the year.
That's right.
That's the low blow.
You probably can't expect your 2-year-old to do your laundry for you today when you come home, right? You would be a little frustrated if that was the case. So as crazy as an analogy I just gave you, but it's true. You have to, with DISC, what DISC does is it helps you understand what to expect. You know what to expect, and you know what it does? It removes the frustration you get with clients because you already know what to expect. Now, this is a pretty simple map of what it looks like. So this right here is something that every one of you should probably print off or have it where you can look at almost every day for the next month and really just look at that as a reminder constantly. Never stop looking at this, because once you understand this, again, you can manage your expectations really quickly. So you notice the dominant and the influence are both outgoing, active and fast-paced. They feel they can control or change the situation. They need to know they can. Well, actually, they know they can. Believe me, when it comes to dominant and influence, they know they can control the situation without a doubt. They take control of that situation. Understanding though that a dominant is a task-driven person, where influence are people-driven. So task-driven are thinkers. They like to be in control. They view situations as unfavorable. In other words, the glass is usually half empty, whereas over here with the people-driven people, the glass is half full. So what you're going to find with dominance and compliance people over here on the task side, they look at things as what's wrong with the situation, whereas the people over here on influence and steadiness look at what's right with the situation. Most people, when they're doing real estate, buying and selling, they have a really hard time with what is the upside to making a move. They tend to look at what the downside is first. Like, what's my current situation? You know, what am I getting for the value of my house? What are the challenges I have with my own house? It's hard to see past that. But if you're going to have a little bit easier success with what the upside is, it comes with the influence and steadiness. The dominant and compliance people, not easy for them to see the upside because they're so conditioned to look at the downside of the situation first. There's always a what's wrong with something in everything they look at. You just have to understand that. Now, and if you're a people person, which by the way, 90% of real estate agents who are in residential real estate would classify here as influence. Concerned with feelings, they view situations as favorable, right? We'll do a little deeper dive on these personalities in a second. Now, with outgoing and people, you'll notice right away, if you're a high influence personality, if you come across a client that's also a high influence personality, well, guess what? Instant connection, right? You ever go to those appointments, whether it's a buyer or seller, and you sit down with them, you meet them, and they're just outgoing and they're laughing and they're talking and all of a sudden you're just having a great time and you're like, yeah, I love this business. You do, because you can connect with them. Everything's great, but then all of a sudden the next day you come over here to a compliance, and guess what? Task-driven, skeptical about everything, reserved, slower paced, quiet, cautious, feel they can lack the power to control or change the situation, and you're trying to understand, you get a read on them because they're quiet. You ask them a question. You ever have this happen? You ask a question and then they don't answer right away? And it just seems like the silence is like forever. Yeah. And the look on their face, they have a look on their face and you're trying to look at their face going, did I say something wrong? So different than if you were with the influence.
You do that.
I know I have a good poker face. Yeah, I know. People often say that to me. Your facial expressions, Rob, are so hard to read. I know, because I remember one year I went in this poker tournament one time, just for fun at the Stampede, and played Texas Hold'em. I came in third. And then the guys I was playing with were like, I could not understand your facial expressions. I said, I get it. I probably should have been a professional poker player.
What's the difference between that?
I know, I gamble enough in real estate. So, but you can understand the moment you're going and meeting with the compliance person, task-driven, reserved, as opposed to you being outgoing and people-driven, you can see, recognizing this, the worst mistake, as simple as it might be, the outgoing people, they don't like silence. They hate it. They love, if there's silence, they want to fill it up with something. The compliance person, the worst thing you could ever do is when you ask them a question, the worst thing you could ever do is talk first. You might think, your brain wants to think, oh, this can't be good if they're being silent. I'm going to tell you something, you are dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Your brain wants to think that way, that silence is bad, because you're conditioned to think that way. I'm telling you, hands down, this is why it's so important to manage our expectations. With compliance people, silence is good, because they're taking it all in, they're thinkers, they're analyzing it. Oftentimes, when you talk again, you just gave them two things now to think about, which means even more silence. You just made the situation worse. Steadiness people, a little bit different. They're also, again, quieter, cautious, slower paced. Interestingly enough, though, the steadiness people have the best poker face, because they have this look of just nothing, absolutely nothing. Like they're just because again, they're thinkers as well. But you know what? The interesting thing about compliance versus steadiness, though, the compliance people, they will at some point tell you exactly what they're thinking in most cases. So if you did say something that they didn't agree with, after that moment of silence where they thought about it, usually they'll say, yeah, you know what? No, I don't really agree with what you just said. I don't think that's accurate. And they're okay with having a debate around that. The steadiness, though, this is the silent killer, because the steadiness, they won't agree with you, but then they won't tell you anything. Oftentimes, you know what they'll do? After you leave the house, they'll look at their spouse and go, yeah, I didn't agree with anything they said. They don't like confrontation, which I'll get into that in a minute. You can see why it's so important to recognize who you're talking to. The dominant people, you need to get to the point quickly. Compliance people, they like a really good explanation. The dominant and the influence people, this is why it's so good to have a video for your pre-listing package. It's why it's good to have your pre-listing package to have all kinds of good pictures as well. Like they don't like to read a lot of text. neither the dominant or influence want to read a lot of text. The dominant wants to get to the bottom line quickly. Whatever you give them, they just want to see that final 2 sentences that say what the bottom line is. The influence people, they love pictures, they love color, they love all the things that look good. They don't like to really read a lot of stuff. But this is why it's so important to know who your audience is, because if it's a compliance person or a steadiness, they definitely have a lot more ability and they prefer to look at and analyze everything. So that's why having a really lengthy pre-listing package, as well as coming in really prepared to your listing, to a compliance, very important to do. Most people who are high Cs will absolutely read everything you give them. This is why there's a lot of lawyers that are high Cs, right?
And you bring up a good point, I was going to ask that, so that you should stereotype your clients or the people you're meeting, your audience, based on their profession. Right, because engineers, we send them all the documents, and I do fully expect them to have read everything when they come to the meeting, and almost always they don't listen.
Right,
Right?
yeah. When Human, our in-house lawyer, says the same thing. When he has an engineer, for example, he sends out all the paperwork. Yep, those appointments with the lawyer go a little longer, don't they? Yeah. And you know, I've had realtors will say to me, so, hey, how'd your appointment go? I say, oh my goodness, Rob, you wouldn't believe it. My client wanted to read the entire contract. I had to sit there and read the entire contract before they'd sign it. Who does that? Not an I. I'll tell you that. Obviously, they weren't an I personality, were they? What'd they do? Oh, they were an accountant.
Send it ahead of time.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised? You see, expectations. You're sitting there frustrating, and they can probably sense it when you're rolling your eyes back and they want to read every word and go through it. You need to be prepared for that. So you're right. Sometimes it is good to send it in advance. It might be a good idea to have it in the box as to what they're going to sign, because I can tell you, if they are a high I, you don't need to put it in the box. The high I, they just will probably sign it. It's kind of scary, but I've actually had high I's that are like, hey, Rob, I just signed it on my phone while I was driving. Thanks for telling me that. I appreciate that. You really understood what you signed. That's great.
One thing I want to add to that is if anybody has an assistant, you want someone who is identified for choosing.
Yeah, it's a good point by what Sandra said. It's when you have an assistant, this is why it's important to do personality profiles. Do you want another I for your assistant? No, you never want another I for that's just 2 of you. That's the worst. Right. All right. That's why you want an S or a C. They make good assistants. By the way, you'll find this interesting. The D's and the I's, they control most of the money in the world. Because D's and I's, as far as business owners, take the most risk. It's another reason why you see a lot of I's in real estate. We understand that there's risks coming into this business. We understand there's no, we don't have a guaranteed income. We don't know what we make from month to month. That's not generally okay with C's and S's because they are risk adverse. And that's why it's good to have them working with you in an assistant capacity, because they're very detail oriented and risk adverse. And as a business owner, you always want to know what the risks are. But the D's actually take the most risks, and what makes D's pretty successful as well is because they have a dominant personality. They're very much so task driven that they can get stuff done. The one drawback to influence people is that they can very easily get distracted by something shiny. Right. And I'm gonna tell you something, this is why this is great to look at all the time, because not only are we doing this for the benefit of serving our clients better, but having an awareness of yourself can help you be a little bit better at some of your limitations to improve on that. I mean, I'm a high I, and I had to get better at being more organized. It's something I had to do. It's not a natural strong suit for me. And yes, I don't know a high I that doesn't get distracted by something shiny and bright. And I'm just as guilty as well. It was very, very easy to, oh, look at that over there. Oh, look at that over there. You know, it's, and for most of you that are high I's, add that to the fact that you're ADHD. I think 85% of realtors are ADHD, you know, only that much. Yeah.
Mortgage specialist too.
Mortgage specialist too. Yeah. Yeah. But that's why we love this business, because it's something different. It's a challenge, you know, but again, these are something you have to be, as much as we enjoy that, we love the freedom of being able to choose where we want to spend our time and what we want to do. You have to understand it's the limitations, which is what we're going to get into here. This is just a quick little map. And this is also, because I'm going to send this to you guys. This is great in your, as you practice this, and as you start to recognize, you know, how, even just how people look. So just to give you an example, going back to here again real quick. High I people, just even look at how they dress. They usually high influence people, they want to dress in what the fashion is of today. All right. So they tend to have a hairstyle that way. They tend to have the right clothing that way. The vehicle they drive tends to be what I would call a little more flashy, for lack of a better word. The dominant people, same thing. Whereas, you know, compliance, you can see them be a little bit more reserved, you know, in how they dress. And same with the steadiness. So you can see that when you're looking at these things, as you're talking to them, are they outgoing and direct? And of course, it just directs you as to, all right, do they seem to be competitive and directing, or do they seem to be talkative and interacting? See, as you recognize this, as you're communicating with them and all the other things, like even now when I pull up, if I'm going to go to a listing presentation, for example, the first thing I like to look at is, how does the yard look? What style of house do they have? What kind of car is sitting in the driveway? As I walk in the house, what kind of furniture do they have? What are the fixtures in the home? These are all indications, plus how they dress. I'm analyzing and going, who am I in front of here? What personality group am I in? And I consciously start to adjust my presentation accordingly. And trust me on this, it works like you cannot believe. And it shows up everywhere. So that's a good map. D's. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but this is the scriptures. These are the things that you recognize in these people to know you're talking to a D. You know, adventuresome, competitive, daring, decisive, direct, innovative, persistent, problem solver, results-oriented, self-starter. And you can ask people, what do you like to do when you're not working? What kind of career do you have? Even if you're talking to somebody on the phone and you ask them, you know, what kind of work are you doing? Do you know that 75% of the time you can be correct by their career choice? 75% of the time, but knowing that you can still be 25% wrong, that's why you want to look for other things. So I love asking, you know, what they do. So if they say, well, I like skydiving in my free time, you know, and I own my own company, chances are it's probably a D. Right? So stress tendency. This is something that, again, expectations, demanding, nervy, aggressive, and egotistical. You guys have dealt with it. All of you who have been in this business for a while have dealt with a D, and you know that they want to be in control of the situation. Oh, we got some feedback here from somebody. Hang on a second. There we go. I found it. Possible limitations, and this is where you know, you can be like a deer in headlights, overuse of position, set standards too high, and lack diplomacy and take on too much, too soon, too fast. So quick little story, and I'm sorry if you've heard this story already, because some of you have, but this illustrates the best situation I ever came across when as a real estate agent when I was a D. And that is when I was dealing with a young guy that was buying a first home. And I didn't know that his dad had a pretty big say in the whole thing. He found this house. The market was relatively, I would say, equal between buyers and sellers, but still stuff was selling reasonably quick if it was a good deal or a good property. And we found this house, and we wrote up the offer, and he goes, oh, one more thing, Rob. He says, before we can send this in, he says, we got to go see my dad. I said, oh, okay. He says, because, you know, he just wants to be a part of this. So we drove over to this big office building on 17th Avenue, and he goes, yeah, this is my dad's building. He owns it. I'm like, well, what does he do? Well, he owns an oil company. Oh, okay. So we get in the elevator, we go up to the penthouse, and I'm telling you, this is right out of the Donald Trump playbook. I'm not kidding. Like, it's just like, when I look back on this, I can still see the whole thing so vividly, because it was just the straightest situation. But thank goodness I just got trained on disc, and I was had like a really good awareness to this. Open the door, and at the very far end of the room, and there's windows all the way around, beautiful office, right? There's dad sitting at his desk, looking down, and there's two of his assistants, two men on each side of him. I said, it's right out of the Donald Trump playbook. Like, it's almost like I was going to see the mob boss or something. And we walk in, he doesn't even look up at us. Like, he didn't even acknowledge that we were there. Just, he's still looking down, whatever he's doing. So we uncomfortably walk in and sit down, and it's just kind of silent. And even the two guys that are, you know, standing next to him, they hardly even acknowledge that we're here either. And it did feel kind of awkward and strange. So anyway, finally he goes, so what do you got for me? And he goes, oh, Dad, this is my realtor. Yeah, okay. Again, he did not see me as anything important. So you found a house? Yeah. He said, you got the contract? Yeah, let me look at it. So we hand him the contract, starts looking at it. He pulls out his pen and starts writing on it. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So he adds me back the contract. He wrote in another condition, conditional to the lawyer reviewing the contract, and he put like 2 weeks for that. Now, you guys already know, no seller wants to take an offer conditional to a lawyer reviewing a contract for 2 weeks, all right? And even though the market was not like a crazy seller's market, that offer was not going to be accepted. Now, here's what's important to understand. What would most realtors do at this moment? You're clearly dealing with this dominant personality. Most agents wouldn't even connected the dots on it. He wrote it in. They'd be like, well, I guess we'll just see if we can get this done. And most realtors would say the worst words you could ever say to the seller or the buyer when you have something that you know is probably not going to fly, but you say this anyway, and you set the wrong expectations. Here's the words. Let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do to a buyer or a seller or the dad that's sitting in that chair means you'll get it done. Don't ever say those words. Let me see what I can do. They absolutely mean it. So anyway, I had a very difficult decision to make at the snap of a moment. And I already knew my choices were this. Either I take this offer and I go and present it and it gets rejected, and I have to go back to Daddy Dearest and give him the news that I couldn't get it done. And how do those dominant personalities react when you come back and you tell them you couldn't get it done? You know what their favorite word is? 2 words. You're fired. That's their 2 favorite words. So I already knew that was giving me the impossible. but I recognized what I'm doing here and I thought, look, I gotta go for broke. I have to say what I need to say and do it probably in like 3 sentences. And I have to say it in the right tone of voice so that the D personality gets that this is real. And I did. I stepped up and I said, you just put a condition on there to review a lawyer for 2 weeks, which I said, there's nothing wrong with that condition in itself. But the odds of it being accepted are slim to none. And I said it in a very firm voice. So I don't remember the exact words I said, but I mean, I just got the message across to him in the right tone of voice. And it was really funny. After I said it, and I said it, like I said, I knew that if you talk to a D, get to the summary quick. Don't ramble on, just get to your point and then shut up. So I did that. And then the room went silent. And I'm not kidding. I told you, this is like going to the mob boss. Even the 2 guys next to him, you could see they kind of went, did one of these. Oh, that's interesting. Then the dad, after what seemed like an eternity, he says, I think you're right. It's probably a condition they won't accept. All right. He says, do you think if we just put a review of a lawyer for 2 days, they would accept that? And I said, no, I don't. I think we have a home inspection condition. We have a financing condition. We have 2 outs if we need them. But a reviewing of a lawyer is not a common condition. It is in commercial real estate, but it's not common in residential. He goes, okay, fine, take it out. And then that was it. And you know what? We got the offer accepted, you see? But I went for broke. But again, it came down to, I had to say it with the right tone of voice and I had to say it the right way. I can tell you hands down, if I would have handled that wrong, it would have went bad. That's why I said delivering it the way they want to receive it. Moving along, oh, by the way, the emotion of the D, anger. and you know, how many times in your career, probably Sean, you know this, you ever brought a low offer to a high D? Did they get angry? It has happened. It's just part of the process though, right?
Yeah, or even if something, even if you ask too many questions, and they get angry about it.
And they get angry about it.
It's the same person that says, for the real estate agent, says, you know, and we've all heard this, you know, I've been doing this for how many X years, and that's
right. Usually the sign of a dominant, but I say, I've been doing this for 27 years.
I actually have the hardest time. They're my least favorite.
Yeah, because D's want to be right. They're right fighters. They want to be right. They don't like to be wrong.
That's sensitive with what you think anyway.
Yeah, and it's great. They don't care what you think. They really don't. And they are tough. But the thing you got to remember is, if you want to start selling more luxury properties, you're going to come across more Ds. Yeah, the Ds have because they're business owners and they have money, so they have higher end properties. So you'll just naturally come across more Ds if you want to be in that market. Now the I's, these are you guys, right? The emotion of the high D, optimism. I love some of the I's. This is, I mean, it's no wonder sometimes you would see real estate agents, even in a buyer's market, put like prices on things that are just seem like so outrageous. And you think, what were they thinking? Like, why would you think you'd get that much money for a property? Because the I's are like, well, they're so funny. I's will go into a listing, take an overpriced listing. And then as they're driving away, it's like, well, you know, start rationalizing. I'm sure there's like a buyer from Vancouver or something that'll come off the plane, not look at any other houses and fall in love with it. Like it could happen. Like it could happen. You know, I mean, like they're the same ones on the way down to Las Vegas thinking, yeah, I think I could win this time. I think I could win. I'm pretty sure. You know, last time I lost, but this time I think I'm going to win. I have a feeling. That's the optimism of a high I. Charming, confident, convincing, enthusiastic, inspiring, constantly optimistic, popular, sociable, trusting, you know. I's are famous for putting whipping cream on dog do and calling it dessert. Look at the stress tendency, self-promoting, overly optimistic, gabby, unrealistic. Look at the limitations. Inattentive to details, unrealistic appraisals, they trust indiscriminately, and a situational listener. Yeah. See, when you look at these, you can understand if most real estate agents are fit in this category. So knowing your limitations, when you recognize this, you can improve upon this and be a little bit better. The C personality, the emotion, fear. This group of people, the biggest fear they have is making the wrong decision. The interesting thing about high I's and D's are like, you know what, I'll try it. That's why even like real estate agents coming into the business. Yeah, I thought I'd give this real estate thing a try. You would never hear that from a high C. High C's don't give it a try. It's like a commitment, right? Like they think it over for a long time. It's like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Like, so I'm going to put everything into it. You don't hear them say that, but yeah, we got people coming into our business, these high I's. I'm just going to give this real estate thing a try. I just laugh. Like, you don't become a lawyer and give it a try, right? Because you have to go to school for a long time. You don't just give it a try. Same with engineering, you don't become a doctor, engineer, whatever. So look at the descriptors: accurate, analytical, conscientious, courteous, diplomatic, fact finder, high standards, mature, patient, and precise. They expect that from you, which is everything you're not. No, I shouldn't say that. Some of you are pretty good at a good balance, but the true pure high I's are a lot of that is not your strong suit. It's not to say you can't do it. It's just that you're a little bit out of your comfort zone to do it. Possible limitations: defensive, bogged down in details, overly intense in situations, and they can appear cool and aloof. The stress tendency is pessimistic, picky, fussy, and overly critical. So you just have to understand when you look at these characteristics, you know what you're getting into. And you have if you have the right expectations, trust me on this, you're going to be way more effective. Now the C's, the non-emotional the S's, the non-emotional S's, where you don't know what they're thinking. Amiable, friendly, good listener. And by the way, these people are the best listeners. Don't ever underestimate these S's. They have a memory like an elephant. These people are really deeply caring for other people. They really do. They take jobs because they care. You'll see them as school teachers. You'll see them as nurses. You will see them in any role that is involved in helping people. But it's amazing their memory. I know, because my wife is one of these. And she remembers something that happened from 8 years ago, like it was yesterday. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing for me. You can't underestimate this because, again, going back to us I's, we tend to not always remember the things we said from, yesterday, let alone, 3 years ago. But when you're talking to an S, if at any time something you said contradicted something you said earlier, they caught you. They caught you. They remember it, but like I said earlier, they won't call you out on it. They will take a note of it in their brain, and then the moment you left, they'll be right to their spouse going, they said this one thing, and then they said this over here, and it didn't, that doesn't work for me. And that's why, and that's why you didn't get hired, and you didn't even know it. Sincere, stable, steady team player. But one thing about this group of people, by the way, if they become your client and you've built that level of trust with them, they do tend to be very loyal. And most likely you'll have a client for life. So understand that they yield to conflict, difficulty setting priorities, they dislike unwarranted change, and troubled by diversity. This is the group of people as well. Family is everything, and they don't really like the idea of their life being disrupted. So when you come to speak to them about selling their property, it's not as important to them that they sell it just for top dollar. Like you as the I are like, hey, what we're going to do? We're going to get this place marketed. We're going to take these amazing photos and we're going to get we're gonna get 1,000 people through your property in the next 7 days and it's gonna sell. And the S is going, 1,000 people are gonna come through my house? Well, what about the kids going to bed at 8 o'clock at night? I can't have the house ready for 1,000 people. And all of a sudden there's this terrible, overwhelming feeling, and they have this look again of just like this on their face, and you don't even know what it means. And you thought by all your great marketing that you do and getting all these 1,000 people, they're like, that's the ticket. That's why they're going to want to hire you. In their mind, they're going, I need a realtor that's going to get 5 people through my house, not 1,000. And maybe I need to talk to somebody else. You see, this is a way, way different kind of thinking than what you're expecting. Now you're starting to see why this stuff works and it's so powerful. So take note of all of this. All right, let's see if I have any feedback before we move on here, because I got a couple other things to address before we're done, and it's already 11 o'clock, so I might go 5 minutes over. Atomic habits. Now that we really understand personality profile, the most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you want to become. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continually edit your beliefs and upgrade and expand your identity. The real reason habits matter is not because they can get you better results, although they can do that, but because they can change your beliefs about yourself. I've been reading this book, Atomic Habits. Some of you have already read it as well, and I'm not just reading it, I'm actually studying it, but I'm looking at, it's so interesting to see the difference between goals and habits, and recognizing that goals don't actually work and habits do. Habits are what creates systems. And I said this in my email yesterday, as I sent this out yesterday to everybody, when I said, you know, we're going to sell in the next 4 months, we're going to sell more homes in the next 4 months than we will in the next 6, because it's the spring market. And I said after that, every one of us needs to work in our business and on our business. And I know that most of you, going back to those high I personalities, we just love working in our business because we love being with people. We just love the people side of it. We love out there showing homes. We love meeting with sellers. We just love, that human connection. We thrive on it. Working on your business is the painful part of this business. But I can't stress enough, that's the habits. Working on your business every single day is what will create the opportunities to work in your business day after day after day. You have to dedicate at least an hour, if not more, to working on your systems. This is either this is a sales career for you in this business, or it's a business. A sales career means you have no really good systems. You have no marketing systems, no real strategy, no real thought, not really putting in, every single day working on it. What it means is your business goes up and down, up and down. You have 1 good month, 2 bad months, 2 good months, 2 bad months. It's never consistent. A business, well, it's like McDonald's. McDonald's sells every single day. All successful businesses consistently sell and sell and sell because it's systems that create it. So there's a regular flow of leads that come into your funnel. There's a regular flow of a percentage of those leads that turn into conversation. There's a percentage of those conversations that turn into physical appointments. And there's a percentage of those physical appointments that turned into a signed agreement. And a certain amount of those signed agreements turned into a payday. And it's a numbers game. And if you have a system, as all these amount of people come into your funnel, and it funnels down into actual conversations, to appointments, to actual sales. And it's amazing if you have the fortitude to actually track this carefully, so you know exactly where your business is, becomes very, very predictable. This business can be predictable even in an unpredictable market if you do that. And that's why Atomic Habits, it's creating these kind of habits that you have to do every single day. And even though we're now in the very early stages of our spring market, there's still time for you to implement systems along the way. But keep in mind, anything you implement today usually takes anywhere from 30 to 90 days before you start reaping the rewards of that system. You got to be patient with it. All right.
It's a 1 hour open.
And that's the 1 hour open house.
Unless it's a 1 hour.
Or so that, oh, sorry, unless it's a 1 hour open house. I was gonna say, but even getting ready for the 1 hour open house, you have to have a little time to do that. You have, that's what I said. The 1 hour open house is still an example of working on it. You have to put that preparation in. Look what you did. You went and dropped flyers off and you put the work in to do it. That's all part of working on your business, not in it. All right, well, we're out of time. Chris Voss will have to wait till next week. So have a good week, everyone.